explanation. The events take place in an alternative reality where the 1986 Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant accident led to the emergence of an anomalous zone around the station. This territory, known as the Zone, became a place where the laws of physics are violated. Artifacts are unique objects born within anomalies. They possess unusual properties. They can protect against radiation, accelerate wound healing, increase endurance, or grant other supernatural abilities. Some artifacts are so rare and valuable that they sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Stalkers are people who illegally enter the zone for profit. They search for artifacts despite deadly dangers, radiation, predatory mutants, and especially anomalies. Anomalies are areas where reality operates under altered rules. The meat grinder from our story is an electrical anomaly that instantly kills any living thing that enters its radius of effect. In this world, greed and desperation drive people to incredible risks. An artifact can make a person rich if they survive to sell it. Rain drummed against the roof of the abandoned school in Pripyat. A group of 3 stalkers sought shelter from the sudden downpour. According to unverified information, the school housed a rare artifact, rare and expensive. The information needed to be verified. The counter shows elevated background radiation, stated Redhead, the youngest of the trio, studying the detector readings. "It's always like this here," replied Gray, an experienced stalker. "The school sits above old sewage collectors. Radioactive water accumulates there." The third man, Wolf, silently surveyed the premises. A former military man, he was accustomed to trusting his own eyes more than instruments. "Redhead, go walk around the school and take a look." They settled in the principal's office, a spacious room with tall windows and a massive oak desk. Faded portraits of Soviet leaders hung on the walls, Lenin, Brezhnev and his medals, and an old map of the USSR with hammer and sickle. Brass bugles and a drum gathered dust in the corner, while transitional pennants with Soviet symbols stood on the shelf. "Well, look at that, they survived," Gray whispered touchingly, hanging his wet jacket on the back of a chair. In another corner stood an old record radio receiver, part of the school's radio system. "Interesting," Wolf muttered, examining the diagram on the wall. "There's a whole network here. Speakers in every classroom." Gray nodded. "Soviet system. Central broadcasting for the entire school. They'd play the USSR anthem in the mornings. Everyone would jump up and stand at attention. And the pioneers would put their right hand to their forehead." "You mean to the temple?" "No. Military saluted to the temple, but pioneers did it like this. Look, like this." And Gray pressed his hand to his forehead. "Gray, were you really a pioneer?" "Well, I suspected you were old, but I didn't think that old." Oh, you shouldn't joke. Pioneer. That sounds proud. And what songs we sang. Blaze up like bonfires, blue nights. We are pioneers, children of workers. The time of bright years approaches. The pioneer's call. Always be ready. Whoa. Slow down, pioneer. You'll wake the demons. Wolf switched on the receiver out of boredom. It crackled, then a steady male voice with impeccable Soviet diction came through.
"This is Radio Pripyat speaking. Moscow time 12 o'clock. April 25th, 1986. Air temperature plus 18 degrees.
The stalkers exchanged glances. "A recording," Wolf suggested. "Come on. What's powering it?" Gray tensed up. The voice continued with flawless delivery.
Tomorrow at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant, a planned technical experiment will be conducted. Work will begin at 0 hours 10 minutes.
This is a report from the day before the accident, Gray said quietly.
Today, stalkers with call signs Gray, Wolf, and Redhead are expected to arrive at school number 18 in Pripyat for the purpose of retrieving a rare and expensive artifact, which is located in the basement, in the bomb shelter.
The men froze.
The artifact is surrounded by a meat grinder class anomaly, invisible to the human eye, constantly active, damage radius 1.5 meters from center. All will perish.
The voice remained absolutely calm, as if delivering a weather report. Wolf was the first to recover. Who's transmitting? Identify yourself. How do you know our call signs?
Viktor Andreevich Petrenko, announcer for Radio Pripyat, died of radiation sickness on May 7, 1986.
A dead man can't speak, Gray observed.
The zone has altered physical laws. Electromagnetic fields preserve information, including human consciousness.
A pause. Then the same steady voice.
The artifact's market value ranges from $200,000 to $300,000 US, depending on the buyer.
Wolf whistled. Such money could ensure a comfortable life for many years. What if we just leave? Gray asked.
You will leave. The artifact will remain here. The next group will arrive seeking the artifact in 2 weeks. All will perish.
The voice fell silent. Soviet pop music began playing from the speakers, a song by Muslim Magomedov. Maybe he's lying? Wolf suggested. There's no anomaly there. Maybe he's telling the truth, Gray countered. And we're walking to certain death. Gray pondered. If he knows our call signs and purpose, then his information is accurate. What do you suggest? Wolf asked. We go. But smartly. If the anomaly is constantly active, we need protection or a diversion. Listen, brother, Wolf placed his hand on Gray's shoulder, leaning close to his ear. How about we send Redhead down there? No matter what the artifact's worth, it doesn't divide well by 3. Are you out of your mind? He's a stalker. He's one of us. He's actually like a brother to me, unlike you. Stop this rotten talk. Gray sharply freed himself from Wolf's embrace. Where is he anyway? Redhead. Gray barked into the corridor. Redhead, the echo dutifully carried the call sign through the school corridors. Don't call him, Wolf hissed dryly, working the bolt of his weapon. It doesn't divide well by 2 either. Gray spun around sharply and stared at the pistol aimed at him. Well, you Wolf, oh you Wolf. Let's settle this with fists. Let's do it. The men slowly began removing their equipment. The announcer's voice came from the radio again.
Moscow time 13 hours. News summary. In the city of Pripyat, preparations for Spring and Labor Day are concluding. Pioneers are preparing festive performances.
The radio worked continuously, transmitting reports from 39 years ago. Wolf's first blow was a punch to the solar plexus. Gray gasped and doubled over. Wolf immediately followed with a kick to the ribs. Bones crunched, Gray toppled sideways, biting his lips from pain. Guys, what are you doing? Shouted Redhead, rushing at Wolf just as he was winding up for a decisive blow. Don't interfere, Wolf easily threw off the young man. Redhead crashed into the corner of the office, hitting a bookshelf full of Soviet books. His vision darkened. Gray rose, wiping blood from his split lip. His eyes burned with fury. Come on, you damn paratrooper. He lunged at Wolf, but Wolf dodged and delivered a right hook. Gray staggered but stayed on his feet and responded with a series of body blows. Wolf suddenly pushed Gray away and drew a knife, a wide scout blade. "Now it's serious," he wheezed. Gray drew his own knife, a narrow finish blade. The blades met, and a dull, vibrating ring echoed like a distant bell toll. The opponents faced each other alone. Gray attacked first, a short thrust at the stomach. Wolf caught his wrist and tried to execute a throw, but Gray braced himself and kneed his thigh. Wolf released his arm and made a diagonal cut. The blade sliced across Gray's forearm, cutting the skin. "Bastard!" Gray roared and stabbed at his opponent's chest. Wolf dodged, but the blade caught his rib, leaving a red stripe. The fighters separated, breathing heavily. Blood dripped onto the dusty floor of the principal's office. Wolf charged forward, but this time Gray was ready. He intercepted the attacking arm, spun his opponent around, and slashed across the throat. Wolf fell, wheezing and clutching his neck. Blood seeped between his fingers. Gray stood over him, looking with surprise at the blood gushing from his own stomach. "You see, Wolf," he whispered. "Soviet radio never lies, all will die." Redhead regained consciousness just at that moment. Seeing the dying Wolf, he screamed, "What have you done?" "He came at me with a knife," Gray replied hollowly, pressing his palm against the bleeding wound. "Hey, you're bleeding too." "Nonsense, let's go quickly." "Where?" "The artifact is somewhere in the basement here. We need to find it while I still have strength. Let's try to change history. Do you know where the basement entrance is?" "Then let's go." The concrete walls of the bomb shelter pressed on consciousness with deathly silence. Only drops of water seeping through ceiling cracks marked the final minutes of Gray's life. He leaned his back against the cold wall, feeling warmth slowly leaving his body along with the blood oozing between his fingers. "Redhead," he wheezed hoarsely, "do you see that corner? Behind the desk debris?" The young stalker strained to peer into the basement's gloom, lit only by the trembling light of a flashlight. "Something's glimmering there," Redhead nodded. "Is that it?" "That's it. Our artifact." Gray coughed, and crimson drops appeared on his lips. "But it's guarded by a meat grinder, the most vicious of all anomalies. In the basement corner, among the mangled school desks and ceiling debris, something indeed glowed dimly with bluish light. The artifact lay about 15 meters away, but those meters were lethal." "How does it work?" Redhead nervously licked his lips. "Electricity. It accumulates charge, then discharges." Gray winced painfully. "Only reacts to living things. As soon as you enter the radius." He gestured in a circle about 3 meters in diameter around the artifact. First sparks, then the strike. Instantly. Redhead remained silent, understanding the hopelessness of the situation. Gray read despair in his eyes. "Listen to me carefully." Gray grabbed his partner's sleeve. "I have a plan. I'll go there." "What?" "Gray, you... Don't interrupt. I'm already a dead man." The old stalker's voice grew firmer. "Minutes, maybe 2. But I can still run. Run, grab the artifact, and throw it to you while the meat grinder finishes me off." "No." Redhead shook his head. "We'll find another way." "There is no other way." Gray rose heavily to his feet, leaning against the wall. "You're young, you have your whole life ahead. And I want to die as a stalker, not bleed out like a wounded dog. Listen further. This artifact is worth huge money. The radio upstairs will tell you. Gray smiled bitterly. You'll have enough for life. Grab this artifact and get out of the zone and never come back here again. Do you hear me? Look at me, I'll check from up there. He slowly moved toward the basement corner. Each step was difficult, but his will was unshakable. Static tension was already felt in the air. The meat grinder sensed approaching living flesh. Gray! Redhead shouted. The old stalker turned and smiled crookedly. Tell them at the bar that Gray died like a stalker. After thinking for a moment, he corrected himself. Both. Do you hear? Both. Gray and Wolf died like stalkers. And he rushed forward. The first meters came easily, adrenaline drowned out the pain. But as soon as Gray crossed the invisible boundary of the anomaly, the air around him lit up with thousands of tiny electrical sparks. They danced over his body like living snakes, leaving red burns on his skin. Come on, bitch, he wheezed, continuing forward. The sparks grew brighter, the air hummed with tension. Something began to glow in the anomaly's center. The meat grinder was preparing to discharge. Gray made his final lunge. His bloodied fingers closed on the artifact's cold surface. The artifact was enormous, the size of a fist and glowing from within with soft blue light, giving the sensation of living matter in a stone shell. Redhead. Catch. He hurled the artifact toward his partner with all his strength. At that same moment, a blinding flash struck from the anomaly's center. A powerful electrical discharge pierced Gray's body, twisting him in an incredible convulsion. The sound was horrifying, as if not only tissues were tearing, but reality itself. Redhead, blinded by the flash, instinctively caught the artifact flying toward him. When his vision returned, nothing remained of Gray but charred fragments on the basement floor. The anomaly quieted, satisfied with its victim. The air slowly stopped glowing with sparks. Redhead clutched the warm artifact and said quietly, "Thank you, Gray. I'll tell them at the bar that you died like a true stalker." In the silence of the abandoned bomb shelter, water drops continued marking time, but now they dripped not for the dying, but for the living who had received a chance thanks to an old friend's sacrifice. Redhead went upstairs and entered the principal's office. Wolf's lifeless body lay on the floor.
This is Radio Pripyat speaking. Stalker, call sign, Redhead.
Redhead started in surprise.
The artifact has been retrieved and rightfully belongs to you. Take it, it's yours now. Leave and never trust anyone again. The zone has a rule. Whoever survives is right. But this rightness is bitter as wormwood and heavy as lead.
The voice remained absolutely calm, as if delivering a weather report. Epilogue, the price. The rain had ended. The sun emerged, painting the ruined school in golden tones. Redhead sat on the steps, examining the artifact, which shimmered in the sunlight with all the colors of the rainbow. $300,000. A comfortable life. Any stalker's dream fulfilled. But somehow there was no joy. In the principal's office, the radio still played.
The time is 17 hours 0 minutes, April 26, 1986. An accident has occurred at the 4th power unit of the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant.
Redhead looked at the crystal and thought about the price of this wealth. 2 men were dead. Comrades with whom he had shared the dangers of the zone. He thought about how money wouldn't resurrect the dead. And how, in pursuit of artifacts, people forget the main thing. They they themselves become monsters more terrible than any mutants. The radio voice continued transmitting reports about the catastrophe that changed the world, about people who paid for others' mistakes with their own lives, and about how in the zone, every choice has a price, and the price is always paid by someone else. Behind him, in the principal's office, his dead comrades lay silent among Soviet portraits and pioneer relics. And the radio transmitted the final reports of announcer Viktor Petrenko. His shift had finally ended.